Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
This is the Bloomberg Daybreak podcast, available every morning on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen. It's Tuesday, the 19th of March here in London. I'm Caroline Hepker. Coming up today, Japan raises interest rates for the first time since 2007 and scraps yield curve control. YOLO options traders bet that the value of Nvidia could more than double by Friday. Yes, Friday, as the AI darling unveils its latest chip. Plus, Elon Musk insists that his ketamine prescription is in the best interest of Tesla shareholders. But is it the right medicine for investors? Let's start with a roundup of our top stories. The Bank of Japan has ended the most aggressive monetary stimulus program in modern history. The BOJ raised rates for the first time in 17 years, scrapped its yield curve control program, while also pledging to keep buying long-term government bonds as needed. Kazuo Momota was the former Bank of Japan assistant governor.
Right now, interest rate is around zero and inflation rate is more than 2%, which means that we are still deep in negative territory in terms of real interest rates. So even though with some of the interest rate hikes, still we could be set and accommodate the policy. But I think the code from the BOJ, from that kind of pressure is that we are not rushing in terms of normalization of monetary policy for the time being.
So that was Kazuo Momota. His view of one and done is shared by many BOJ watchers who believe this isn't the beginning of an aggressive tightening cycle of the sort that we've seen in the US and Europe recently. That stance appeared to disappoint some market players looking for a more aggressive rate outlook for Japan. Nvidia has unveiled a successor to its famed AI processor. The tech giant shared designs for a new processor called Blackwell, multiple times faster than its predecessor. This was at the GTC conference in California. CEO Jensen Huang said that Blackwell is a more efficient version of the previous Hopper design.
Form-fit function compatible to Hopper. And so you slide on Hopper and you push in Blackwell. That's the reason why one of the challenges of ramping is going to be so efficient. Same design, the power, the electricity, the thermals, the software, identical.
CEO and co-founder Jensen Huang speaking there. Now, according to Nvidia, the Blackwell chips will be the basis of new computers and other products being developed by the world's largest data center operators and available later this year. Now to all news. Gunvor's CEO, Tory, has estimated that about 600,000 barrels of Russia's daily oil refining capacity has been wiped out by Ukrainian drone strikes. He was speaking at the CERAWeek Energy Conference in Houston. Recent attacks hit multiple plants in Russia, sending diesel and gasoline futures higher. JP Morgan, meanwhile, believes that it could be several weeks, if not months, before Russia's oil refining capacity is restored. Chinese regulators say that the developer Evergrande falsely inflated revenue by more than $78 billion in the 2 years leading to its failure. Bloomberg's Brian Curtis has more on that story now from Hong Kong.
The CSRC said Evergrande's main unit, Hengda Real Estate, boosted its 2019 income by about $30 billion. It said Hengda falsified another $44 billion in 2020. The regulator said Evergrande founder Hui Kai-yan told personnel to falsely inflate the numbers. The CSRC said that he used egregious means. The regulator fined Hui about $6.5 million and banned him from capital market activities for life. Hengda was fined $580 million. In Hong Kong, Brian Curtis, Bloomberg Radio.
To UK news now. Rishi Sunak is facing the biggest challenge to his authority since he took office as Prime Minister 17 months ago. Bloomberg has learned even some cabinet ministers are privately talking about whether he should lead the Conservative Party into the next election. Bloomberg's James Wilcock has more.
There has always been another reset. The hope that a speech on extremism or a budget or a plane to Rwanda will bridge the 20-point polling gap between Labour and the Conservatives. But the polls haven't budged, and that sets off feverish plotting in Tory ranks, with some saying they need a new leader, like Business Secretary Kemi Badenoch. she's having none of it.
I don't look at polls or speculation. I make sure that I'm doing my job. I don't think that the government should be in a position where it's responding to every single bit of disagreement that's reported in the news. We should be looking at the record which we have over the last 14 years.
But regardless of her public denials, Westminster feels increasingly fractious, and many point to local elections on May 2nd as a moment of political danger for Sunak. In London, James Woolcock, Bloomberg Radio.
Elon Musk says that his use of ketamine is in investors' best interest. The Tesla CEO discussed his prescription for the drug with the former CNN anchor Don Lemon, who asked if Wall Street should be worried.
Tesla is worth about as much as the rest of the car industry combined, from nothing. So, that's pretty good. As I mentioned, we had the best-selling car on Earth last year. So, investor standpoint, if there is something I'm taking, I should keep taking it.
Musk has said that he takes ketamine as medication for depression-like symptoms. The CEO cancelled a deal to carry Don Lemon's new program on his X platform after this interview. And Wall Street has been ringing the alarm bell about Tesla's future after disappointing numbers in China and in Europe. Just lastly, Selena Gomez is looking to sell her $2 billion cosmetic brand, Rare Beauty. Bloomberg understands that the actress and singer has hired financial advisors to field interest from potential investors and buyers. The Business of Fashion, a website that follows the industry closely, named Rare Beauty as one of the most sought-after M&A targets for 2024. Gomez and her team launched the brand in 2020 with Liquid Blusher becoming a viral TikTok hit the following year. And those are a few of our top stories for you this morning. Now, on the markets, the MSCI Asia Pacific Index currently down 0.4%. Euro Stoxx 50 futures also dropping about 0.25% this morning. 10-year US Treasury yields trading at 4.31%, so fairly steady. 2-year yields at 4.72, down about a basis point. So those are the markets this hour. Now, in a moment, we're going to talk a bit more about the Bank of Japan rates decision. It was widely expected, but the market still saw quite a big reaction to it. Plus, Nvidia's new chip, the major announcement out of California, really does feel like Nvidia's taken over from Apple in terms of the kind of unveiling razzmatazz, the glitz and the attention that they are getting given the popularity of AI and the impact that it's had. But look, before we get to those stories, this caught my eye this morning. If, as I am, you are fascinated by food, you'll love the story that Tara Patel has written up about the Guide Michelin. Of course, we've got 30 new 3-star restaurants awarded in France this year. So there are a lot more restaurants, 30 of them in France, 8 new 2-star restaurants. This, of course, ahead of the Olympic Games that France is hosting this summer. So there's optimism that the new guide that always comes out at this time of year is going to kind of rustle up more business for the restaurant trade. Tara's also been interviewing one of the chefs that was awarded a 3-star Michelin. That was the 35-year-old chef Fabien Ferré, and his 3-star spot is La Table du Castellet. 28 restaurants, having said that, were downgraded. Ouch. Pretty painful. But as I say, with the Olympics being hosted in Paris, I think lots of optimism that there'll be attention on that, especially because Alain Ducasse, one of the most famous French restaurateurs, and I think he's won the most Michelin stars of anybody anywhere. He's actually going to be putting on a dinner on the 25th of July for 100 visiting heads of state. So showcasing France's food and, of course, making me a little bit hungry for my breakfast. Anyway, that's a story on the Bloomberg Terminal for you this morning. And let's get to the Bank of Japan now. Governor Kazuo Ueda has steered the BOJ into a new era, scrapping the world's last negative interest rate. The bank has set a new short-term interest rate range of between 0% and 0.1%. Joining me now is Bloomberg's FX strategist, David Finnerty. David, good morning. It's not just the interest rate, it's the whole system of support that's been changed and axed, buying ETFs, for example, and real estate investment funds. What has changed at the BOJ?
Well, you said they changed quite a lot. They've raised interest rates. They've got rid of yield curve control. They're still going to be buying back some bonds, and they're doing that obviously to limit how much interest rates do rise or potentially rise in reaction to this decision. So it has been a major revamp of the decisions. Having said that, it was pretty much as expected because there've been so many leaks and just overnight from Nikkei saying what was going to happen, and they were pretty much spot on. So the market sort of knew well in advance what was going on. Hence, you're not seeing a huge reaction all round. You see more of a reaction in the dollar yen, and that's really because at the end of the day, the BOJ said yes, we raised rates. They haven't even signalled yet how many more, if any, rates to come this year. And the market really wants, if you're a yen bull, you really want more rate hikes. You don't want this idea of one and done. Now we'll look for the press conference, and I'm sure Governor Wade will be pressed on this or quizzed on this of like how many more to come. He may kick that can down the road to the outlook report at the April meeting, and if he does that, though, markets will go, so all we'll be left with is no rate hikes this year, which obviously will be dollar yen supportive, particularly if the Fed dot plot tomorrow signals 2 dots, 2 rate cuts this year rather than 3.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, and if you're on the Bloomberg terminal this morning, of course, you can follow the T-Live blog. All of our best reporters are putting their 2 cents worth in there, Isabel Reynolds and many others writing on the blog this morning. In terms of what has driven this, is this all about rising wages? Is Japan now in a kind of virtuous circle? The inflation gauge has been at or above 2% inflation for quite some time now in Japan.
Yes, as you said, the inflation measures have been above that. So the move of the change in the policy was not surprised. I mean, it was expected sometime this year because said inflation remains elevated. The big debate really in the markets was when was that timing going to be. April was initially seen as a front runner because of the outlook report, the quarterly outlook report. Some people thought they may even wait till July when there's all more data to make the decision. Obviously, the BOJ said, okay, based off the shunter wage negotiations information we already have from them, that's enough for them to say, look, let's do it now. So it's acted. I think the market says looking forward to seeing, be quizzed on, what's coming next, should we say, from the BOJ in the press conference, and then in that April when the outlook report is mentioned, how high do they go on the inflation estimates? Because again, if they're going high, then you could say, well, they are sort of indicating that maybe more rate hikes are to come.
Okay, good stuff. David, thank you so much for your time, your insights this morning. That is Bloomberg's FX strategist, David Finity. So the BOJ decision, the first act of a big week of central bank announcements. Now, Nvidia's developer event in California has rapidly become a global artificial intelligence conference. The CEO, Jensen Huang, unveiled a new chip called Blackwell. It's designed to extend the company's dominance of AI computing and, of course, to maintain its rocketing share price, I imagine. Joining us now is Bloomberg's tech editor, Vlad Savov, to discuss. Good to have you back with us this morning, Vlad. What did we learn then from Jensen Huang about the new lineup of chips?
Well, in a couple of words, it's very powerful. It's actually a little bit shocking. The company to come out within just a couple of years from its prior architecture, the Hopper architecture, and to make claims of multiple times better performance. When it comes to training AI models, on a per chip basis, it's 2.5 times better. But once you get it in a big cluster, Jensen said that it can be as big as 4 times the performance improvement on its own class-leading architecture. And then the big highlight for me actually is the power efficiency. When you get one of these big clusters of the latest Nvidia chips, the company's claiming as much as 25% better power efficiency, which if you're buying up a bunch of them and putting them into your data centers, that's a big deal.
Yeah, okay, so this is much more powerful. The other factor, though, is the increase in Nvidia's share price. I mean, off the back of this, we've seen this incredible year. They've added $1 trillion in market cap because they've got this cutting edge AI technology. And yet you're also seeing it's almost becoming a bit of a meme stock with you only live once, YOLO traders. Why is that? They're really betting on an even bigger increase in Nvidia's share price.
Well, it kind of fits the profile of those sorts of meme stocks, because when you look at the ones that were in the past, it's companies like GameStop, where a lot of online culture is about gaming, so people can think of it fondly. So whether it goes up or down, at least you're investing with it with some passion. Other ones were Nokia, BlackBerry, likewise. Nvidia fits into that. It is a gaming company at its roots, and it's building on that technology to effectively power the entire AI revolution that we keep talking about on a daily basis. So it makes sense. But also, again, I want to go back to this point. Nvidia already has this massive lead, and now it's given us multiples of performance improvement, efficiency improvement. The total cost of ownership with these new chips is going to be so much lower because they're more power efficient. And you have to compare to its competitors, Intel, AMD, in terms of general processing, the chips that they've always led in. They can never make claims nowadays of 2.5 times, 4 times performance leaps with each generation.
This is Bloomberg Daybreak Europe, your morning brief on the stories making news from London to Wall Street and beyond.
Look for us on your podcast feed every morning on Apple, Spotify and anywhere else you get your podcasts.
You can also listen live each morning on London DAB Radio, the Bloomberg Business app and Bloomberg.com.
Our flagship New York station is also available on your Amazon Alexa devices. Just say, Alexa, play Bloomberg 1130. I'm Caroline Hepker.
And I'm Stephen Carroll. Join us again tomorrow morning for all the news you need to start your day, right here on Bloomberg Daybreak Europe.